thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. Download the app today.
This is Up for a Chat with your hosts, Cyndi O'Meara and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Cyndi O'Meara.
And I'm Kim Morrison. This week is a little bit more personal than others because this special soul we have has not only supported me in my back healing journey, but he's also someone that speaks very dear to our heart because he's good friends with Cyndi's son-in-law and daughter. So there's this lovely personal connection. Welcome to the Up for a Chat, gorgeous Dr. Terry Holmes, and thank you for being on our show with us today.
Well, thank you. Honoured to be on the show.
Well, I had the privilege of meeting you in person when I was over in New Zealand recently and in a lot of pain with my back and the journey that I've been on with that. And I have to say, you were one of the first people who I got to see post-operative that actually really spent the time with me to look at the functionality, look at what exercises would support me and how to keep myself out of pain, which I'm sure is going to appeal to a lot of people listening to this, how to keep ourselves out of pain when we suffer injury or post-surgery. Before we get into all of that, would you mind giving us a little background as to how you've done kind of like this world circle of where you've been and set up practices with your beautiful wife? Take us on a journey why this is so important to you.
Okay, yes. So I'll try keep it not too long, but it's been a journey, definitely. So I grew up going to an osteopath who I thought was amazing. My mum's always been very holistic, grew up going to naturopaths, homeopaths, all types of healing. Watched quite a bit of Cyndi's stuff online in the past too, the TED Talks and everything, and read some of the books you guys have written. And I got an injury, kickboxing injury, that was quite debilitating, stupid. I was sparring, and obviously you're not supposed to, if you're half decent, it's not about beating people up. It's about sparring, using technique, and just, working together. But I was sparring with a friend, proper kickboxing gym, and I got kicked and then punched in the face straight after, no mouth guard, no shin guard, and stupid. And we kept on sparring and training, and I just started getting a lot of headaches, started getting a lot of fatigue, a lot of sinus issues. I kept going to my osteo. I went to a series of doctors, to private doctors over time, a lot of antibiotics and things like that, which I wouldn't just take unless I felt I needed to. I went to various different professionals, and obviously in their own realm, they help people. But this just went on, I would say, close to a year or a bit longer. And then I finally went to a chiro, and he just said, mate, your jaw is so jammed up, your TMJ, no wonder you're getting headaches. And I was like, right, I'll give this a go. The minute he adjusted me, I really, really noticed it. And he was definitely a little bit different to me, like straight chiro, straight adjusting, released my jaw too. But it overnight, it was like the lights turned on. And I just really noticed it. And because I was working in gyms, managing gyms, training 5-6 times a week, and had been really fatigued, I knew my body. I knew what it felt to feel good. So yeah, I was just like, whoa, I need to look into this more. My brother was just moving back from Cairns. He had been in Cairns for 3 years, and he had started seeing a chiropractor there too, because he was a chef working crazy hours in a very well-known restaurant, and then opening their cafe early morning, so crazy hours. And the chiropractor he was seeing had really helped him. So we had a chat. We went to Dr. Brian Kelly's talk in Mount Wellington, and then we're like, boom, we're going to sign up, and just started that journey. And yeah, many things happened along the way. My father got cancer. He passed away. I didn't like the way he was treated. Various things happened, but it led me to just have a real passion for chiropractic and what I consider real health and helping people as much as I can. And that's led me to here. And between graduating, we had 2 years in South Island, West Coast, in one of the most remote areas of New Zealand, Hokitika, helping the community there. Hardest people I've ever met, but soul to the earth also. And we really saw there how much chiropractic care can help people. And then moving to London and going through a huge journey, but by the end owning our own practice in Notting Hill for 5.5 years, which I'm very happy to say we've sold to friends who worked for us. So they've carried on. We've passed the torch on and they're running the practice. The whole team have stayed, to coming back to New Zealand, setting up in Melford, to being here now and being open for just over a year and being nearly fully booked every day. And we're just about to get a acupuncturist, naturopath, another chiropractor, and the receptionist CA on board. So we're stoked, and yeah, I can talk about all those different areas, but that's in a nutshell the journey that's led us to here and what we do. Yeah.
It's a real honor to hear people like your stories. And a lot of people do, I found, and Cyndi may reiterate this for me, but many people that get into studying and becoming a doctor of chiropractic often have come off the back of their own experience or what their parents or family have brought them up in. A lot of people also see chiropractors as backcrackers. Could you tell us why that is and how you see the best way to explain what you actually do?
Yep. So yeah, great question. It's something that's annoyed me from the day I became a chiro. I used to work at Les Mills gym, and it annoyed me how many people just thought, oh yeah, if I need a crack, I'll come see you. If I'm in like extreme pain, I'll come and do one session. It's about your nervous system. It's about helping people function at their best. For me, it's true health. It's only one part of the puzzle. But, like all chiros, I share the philosophy they share, especially at the New Zealand College of Chiropractic, that you're removing interference from the nervous system so people can function at their best. But my wife and myself, Siobhan and myself, have really made it our mission to spend a little bit longer to explain to people what we do, why we do it. And obviously, once they get adjusted, they feel it for themselves. So when I was at Les Mills and I started out, some people that I was good friends with would, laugh, would be like, you sure you want to be a chiro? Others would be like, oh, okay, interesting. And some would be like, good on you, mate. I love chiropractic. It's helped myself and my family for, so many years. So obviously you're not going to find that every single person loves what you do. But I've found over time, the way we practice and what we do, we've really helped a lot of people get healthier, get more in tune with their bodies, and really see the benefit in chiropractic care. And, your spine is your central nervous system. When you adjust someone's spine, you're having a huge impact on their brain. The sensory information from the spine to the brain and back to muscles, organs, tissues. So people can get all sorts of crazy changes, which we see literally every day in practice. We never say we cure anyone. Everyone's different. Everyone's going through different stresses, different emotions. A lot of people are just, they're staring at screens all day. They're eating absolute rubbish. Their body's not in tune. But as you start adjusting them, I feel like people they intuitively want to feel better. They want to eat better. They want to move better, and that's what we've seen, especially going from Hokitika, one of the smallest, hardest towns in New Zealand, real soul to the earth people, to London and Notting Hill, which was an amazing area. By the end, we're adjusting so many famous people. We're adjusting so many Olympic athletes, Australians and English in particular. And we've had patients see us in Hokitika, London and Melford from each one of those areas. So it's pretty cool, and Tim will have his stories. Cassie will have his stories too of patients they've helped. Siobhan has her stories. My brother's a chiropractor. My wife's dad and 3 brothers are chiropractors. And they all have amazing stories. So, we all have our unique style. But in my experience, being a little bit longer, not like long, but, 15, 20 minutes. We work on functional movements too. I like to do muscle testing, reflex points, releasing the diaphragm, doing cranials, big on jaw and TMJ stuff because that helped me so much. So all the sacro-occipital technique, which is all postgraduate chiropractic stuff, and being good at adjusting someone's spine well, and removing that interference. So, yeah.
So you said something that
Yes.
really made me think, and it was when the spine affects the brain. When you adjust the spine, it would affect the brain. So just recently, I've been researching psychiatrists that are realizing that maybe the drugs and the cognitive therapy is not working. And so they've gone to something called metabolic psychiatry or nutritional psychiatry.
Yes.
That's one. Another one is seizures and epilepsy. And I remember TJ, my son-in-law, saying one day, what if the seizures coming from the spine and not the brain?
Yeah.
And so as soon as you said that, I went, what if the mental health issue is coming from the spine and the metabolic health and not the brain? We all think because it's happening up there that's where it's coming from. But what if it's coming from the spine? So could you kind of address that with regards to I don't know if you've had any luck with seizures or epilepsy or anything like that. Can you address that?
Yeah, well, it is interesting. We actually studied in our year, we had two people that had had epilepsy for many years who had seen chiropractors and had stopped having seizures. So they were studying to be chiropractors. Again, obviously not saying that we just heal and cure that, but we've seen, God, we graduated into 2012, so beginning of 2013, and I've seen many people that have had seizures, all sorts of interesting autoimmune conditions. And as you adjust their spine, we say, first of all, when you adjust the spine, you help the body to go in a more parasympathetic state. There's different areas like the thoracics, upper cervicals, upper neck, thoracics, upper back, that as soon as you adjust, you're affecting parasympathetic nervous system. So it helps the body calm itself. It helps the body to not overreact. And Heidi Harvick's work is amazing. I think she'd be great for you guys to interview. We've been friends with her for years. My brother worked in the research department. I've had all the experiments done where they've hooked electrodes to the brain or the head. They've tested muscles. They've adjusted me, and pre and post adjustment, how much it's changed the brain. And she's had neuroscientists, not chiropractors, researching this data. So you start to see the impact it has, the cortical activity in the brain when you start adjusting the spine, how much you can help the spine and the brain just function so much better. You calm the brain down. And what you see with so much stress and like adrenal fatigue, which is what I got when I got the head injury. I got severely fatigued, and I watched my father pass away of cancer, and it made me angry, the way he was treated, and I didn't agree for a lot of it. So I was quite sick, for a long time. And as the chiropractor started adjusting me, it was kind of like my brain started to work better. My sinuses definitely cleared, my headaches went, and I just started to get my energy back. So when you're adjusting the spine, you're directly impacting the nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. And Heidi Harvick was just talking about it the other day, that when we're in a state of stress, we actually activate all the nerves in the spine and we get in a more sympathetic state. So we're like in fight or flight. And as soon as you adjust the spine, you start to calm those nerves down. So yeah, I reckon it affects the gut. I reckon it affects your breathing. I reckon it allows you to metabolize and digest foods better. What Kim would have seen when I adjusted is I actually get and release the valves in the stomach. I release the diaphragm. I do cranials too. But adjusting the spine and adjusting it well will calm that nervous system right down. And it will help people. There's a multitude of symptoms and conditions that may disappear through chiropractic care. It's hard for us to say we directly do that, but we directly impact the spine and the nervous system directly. Yeah.
I find it interesting that they look at this head in
Yeah.
psychiatry, in epilepsy seizures. They look at the head and they don't look at the rest of the body. And yet we've got this huge neck
Yes.
that connects our head to our body.
I know.
And that spine, is the spine the tail of the brain? Or
Yeah.
like you just think about it that way. Why we are not looking away from the head when it comes to like autism and mental health issues and eating disorders and all of that. But instead, we're just focusing on
I
that
know.
one thing. So I love, the fact that you said that the spine it will affect the brain. And we need
Oh,
to start
completely.
looking at things, I think, a little bit more differently than the way we're looking at it.
Yep. Yep. Your spine is your central nervous system. And as soon as you adjust segments that are jammed or not moving properly, sensory information goes to the brain and then back to the muscles, organs, and tissues. So sensory motor information, and that's a fact. That's with neuroscience. That's why with chiropractic I talk a lot about, like Tim, like about energy and because just our presence. I think a lot of people like coming and seeing my wife and myself because we love what we do. We have energy, we have passion. So they're healing the minute they come in. But when you adjust them, some of the most skeptical people, they get changes. So yeah, you're directly changing how the brain fires. And the gut, the same, the gut, the spine, getting that nervous system to work properly. And the brain has a lot of signaling, but it definitely doesn't control everything. No, it's pretty interesting and it's cool. Science is changing, but you guys are at the forefront of that, and I've been watching over the years, which is pretty cool. And we are too of what we do. But that's what I loved in Hokitika. We went from adjusting these like miners and factory workers and farmers and just really hard people. We were setting up, and we hadn't even set up yet. And a lady came in and asked if I could adjust her husband. He was 6'5", big guy. The whole town knew them. They were a very well-known family in the town, and he'd been in bed for 3 days. And I was like, oh, we haven't even set up our practice. We'll be open in a couple of days. He came in, I adjusted him, did a bit of work. He came back the next day and he was walking 70% better, adjusted him 3 days in a row. And he was just so good. So straight away, she told everyone in the town. So that was our introduction to Hokitika. And then when we went to London, we had a journey. We worked for some people we really didn't get on with. We worked in some really tough areas. But by the end, we ended up owning the very first practice we walked into in the area that we loved. We asked the guy if we could have a job. Then he said, look, I practice by myself. I'll take you on board. I love your energy. We worked part-time hours. He never really picked the practice up, but we did quite well. So we eventually moved on, but remained friends. And we always said, God, we'd love to own this practice. 3.5 years later, he contacted us and said he was moving to Devon. So we ended up owning the practice we dreamed of and remained at that practice, owning it for 5.5 years. And I was just blown away at the people. Like we adjusted Ellie Goulding, many like movie directors and top athletes and people that are just so interesting. And you start to realize that a lot of them think the way we do, especially the go-getter. That's what I found. And we had very interesting discussions about health, about supplements, about eating properly. A family that we adjusted, the Kindersleys, who own DK Publishings. So Peter Kindersley owns DK Publishings, and then his daughter and then his grandkids all came in, and they are running organic farms all over England, and they're trying to raise like that biodynamic farming. They also own Neil's Yard, which Neil's Yard is like does all the remedies. And these people were so interesting to adjust, and we became friends with them, and they're just good people, but we have Peter Kindersley, the granddad, we have his books here, or the DK Publishing books on herbal medicine, on health. And I had those books before I moved there, and we ended up adjusting these families. It was pretty cool. And you become friends with them, and you realize that all of these different people are trying to make a change around the world to get us eating properly, to know what's in our food, to know what's in our products, to look after our spine, to look after our health, to move better. And I find that really inspiring, because when you look at the news and you read the newspaper, you just absolute crap every day, and you just hear about this and that, and you just feel like people are stressed, they're not living, and we're just getting worse and worse. And that's not the case I've experienced in practice. Again, we might see people that are more attuned to wanting to be healthy, but we've also seen people that can't move and have literally been carried in and have just been over medicated, just unhealthy for a long time, and they change. So it's pretty cool. It's
quite sad in the world, really, that we think the news is the truth, or we think that the nutrition pyramid is the right way to eat, or that it's okay to be sponsored. I mean, we were talking about this yesterday, that even when Danny started playing cricket for New Zealand, it was the Rothmans or the Benson and Hedges series. So
yes,
cigarette smoking's gone, alcohol sponsorship's gone. It'll be nice when the McDonald's of the world and Hungry Jack's sponsorship kind of goes out, because there is this, in many ways, we are hypnotized by the news or television or the status quo. Are you finding the more people that you're adjusting or in your world, or is it just us three in our bubble? Is there a change occurring holistically, globally, in your opinion? Did COVID have an impact, whether people believed in it or didn't believe in it? It kind of had people questioning it. Have you seen a shift or noticed anything with moving from London back to New Zealand?
Yeah, I think massively. I always gravitate like strong about opinions and passion, but always gravitate towards, trying to be positive about it. But I think there's a big shift in a certain amount of people getting healthier. Definitely there's a certain amount of people that I just really feel sorry for. And I think our job is to try and not ram it down their throats, but educate them and give them more information. So when COVID happened, something I found that was cool in England is the hospital down the road from us, St. Charles Hospital, started referring patients to us. Siobhan and I initially closed the practice. Siobhan was pregnant. We wanted to find out what COVID was all about. Obviously, I'm all about getting healthy, getting fit, my views, being proactive, look after people that need to be looked after 100%. Don't encroach on other people's views. But within 5 weeks of being shut, St. Charles Hospital referred 3 people to us saying that they really needed chiropractic care. And this is a hospital in London, because one was a 40-year-old dad that had 3 kids at home and had sore neck for 2 weeks and he couldn't work. And they didn't want him going to hospital. So we started seeing these patients. And soon we had patients that had not been coming in that were crying, giving us hugs because they wanted human interaction. We'd been shut for 5 weeks. They had lockdowns in London just like they did in New Zealand and Australia. They didn't have mandates like they did here. But we realized very quickly that people needed connection and they needed chiro care. And we ended up being fully booked during COVID. Fully booked, like practicing. Obviously, people wash their hands a little bit of time between appointments, but we always wash our hands. We always spray the table. We use common sense. But the funny thing is, I think I told you this, we were adjusting Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister at the time, his cardiologist. We were adjusting her. Now, she's Australian, and she was very fit. She treated him for COVID. I think it was at St. George's Hospital. She was coming to get adjusted. A lung specialist from Royal Brompton was coming in to get adjusted, who was dealing with COVID cases. And another lady who was a lecturer, one of the top universities, was at London, in the centre of London. And as COVID went on, they started to change their views in the sense that people needed to get out and get healthy. People needed to start going to the gym and start to take care of their health. And all of them came in and got adjusted. And you found a lot of carers and NHS staff came in to see us, especially during COVID, because they needed help. They were fatigued. They were tired. And it was just funny because they all, as you start working on them, you start speaking to them and everyone drops their guard. Everyone, I felt, started going, geez, we need to be healthy. We need to be fit. We need to be proactive. And we definitely need chiropractors and osteos and nutritionists to be open to help people, increase their immune system, to remain healthy. But in London, we could practice the whole time during COVID. We were first port of call, and it was the hospital that got us to open in the first place. So it was pretty cool, and it was great to be adjusting. Not everyone likes him, but the Prime Minister of the time, his cardiologist, and very much getting on with her and just openly discussing how it was just getting a bit crazy that the hospitals were shut and that people with serious terminal conditions and all sorts of things going on, without going into too much detail, weren't able to get the care they needed. But I just think it was great chiropractors could practice. And there are other chiros that didn't do well and ended up closing. I mean, there was us that had this passion and belief in what we did, and seeing it, more than ever, seeing it reciprocated, like as people were coming and telling us how much better they felt, having a chat, being adjusted, and just seeing how much we were helping people. So it just makes you feel good. Yeah.
One of the things that you have said a couple of times, and I'd like to further the conversation on it, was the way your father was treated.
Yes.
What was it that you didn't like about the treatment that he had, and what do you think he could have done differently?
Yeah, and again, obviously this can be controversial. I think few patients will listen to this, but you have to own what you do, and I've always just believed in what I'm going to say and back it. So I see quite a few people that have been treated for cancer. They love what we do. They've had chemo, they've had radiation therapy. It's helped them. My father was a big, strong guy, so he was quite a well-known rugby player. He played for essentially Natal Sharks, who are very well-known South African team now, even though he was a Kiwi. He then played throughout Europe. So I grew up being like, whoa, my dad's a big, strong, loving, caring father. And he got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and mentally he went downhill very quickly. But then he started, which I haven't even looked at in the last 10 years or so. He passed away in 2007, quite a while ago. But he started this diet, this Manatech diet, because he just wanted to beat this. So he started this diet. It was expensive. It was all whole foods. I'm big on eating meat, especially organic meat, but I think it was more about plant-based foods, nutrients. Everything was like whole sourced, and he would buy it online. He cut out all his refined carbs, his alcohol, his sugar, and he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which is probably one of the most aggressive, almost aggressive cancers you can have. He was beaming with energy. His eyes were bright. We would go to rugby. I was playing rugby still at the time, and people would say, geez, Ted, you're looking well. What are you doing? Are you dieting? And he would just tell people, I've got cancer, but I've decided I'm going to beat it. I'm going to do this diet. I'm going to cut out certain things that really haven't been good for me. He was a private investigator, so he stopped working as a private investigator, and he just kind of cleared all that toxicity from his body and life. And he looked healthier than he had in 10 years. So he ended up having a biopsy. They couldn't find any trace of cancer, which is pretty strange with pancreatic cancer. He did a second biopsy. They couldn't find any trace of cancer. We then had third biopsy done because they were really pushing him, especially the pancreatic specialist, who my brother and I didn't necessarily get on with, because no matter what we asked him when we'd have meetings, he would just kind of laugh and say, there's not much you can do when someone has pancreatic cancer. I would highly recommend chemotherapy, just to, in a way, increase their longevity of life, but not increase it at the same time. Like, it's going to affect them so much. But, and he literally was showing us stats, figures, and that pancreatic cancer is something that you will pass away with within a short space of time. It's very aggressive. No matter what we asked, it just annoyed us. And my dad's sitting there with us, and he's just not saying anything. So, my dad carried on doing this diet, living the way he lived, and he just got healthier and healthier. And then after his third biopsy, again, no trace of cancer, his oncologist rang him, and we remember passing the portable phone. We weren't even using our mobiles. We passed him the portable phone in the bathroom. He came out and basically mentally gave up, said, look, I'm going to start chemo. It's been 5 months. I feel great, but I just think they think that pancreatic cancer it won't go away. So I'm going to start chemo. Yeah, he started chemo. He lost 40 kgs and he died within 4 months. And no one can tell me, differently to what we saw. He deteriorated very quickly, and I think mentally gave up too. And that made my brother, myself, and my mother very angry. And it led my brother and I onto this journey of being as healthy as we can be. Look, I go out, I drink, I enjoy life. I think community and all these things are so important. But I sure as hell know what I put in my body. And, it's just, it was really sad to see how much the chemo affected him. He literally he became very sick very quickly. He was about 110 kgs, quite a big guy, 6'2". And he passed away maybe 4.5 months later, and he was 72 or 73 kgs. Lost his eyebrows, lost all his hair. And I just thought there was definitely things that could have been done differently. There could have been allopathically, they could have looked at it in a different manner. There could have been more information. I take my hat off to some of the nurses in the palliative ward. One we became very good friends with. She came to his funeral. But it left me really disillusioned and annoyed and on the journey that I'm on now, So you've probably heard that a few times, I'd imagine, stories like that. Yeah. So
you hear both sides, you hear,
yes,
like we have a really good friend, and she had breast cancer and did chemo, and then 5 years later got breast cancer again. So had her breasts removed, had chemo, and she's 10 years on, and she's really got a positive mental attitude about things. But recently she had a heart attack. So it's like I don't know if that was part of it. Who knows?
I know. It's one of my many
you
great
don't
patients.
Know, because you hear heart attacks. So you just don't know. You hear both sides of the story, and
yes.
I think it's like playing roulette. That's what I feel like sometimes, is that we play roulette no matter which way you go, which is going to be the best for you, which is going to give you extended life, My mum and sister passed from cancer, and both of them chose not to do chemotherapy, radiation, or operations.
Yeah.
So, my sister lived very well for a year, and on the chemo, she probably would not have lived well. She just chose, I'm just going to die as I die, not try and do any extraordinary means. And my mum, she passed very quickly. So you just don't know. Yeah.
No, I think, just so if I could elaborate on it, I think one of the most important things is also having a good support network, because my dad gave up mentally that day he came out of the bathroom. He gave up, and that was more what annoyed me as opposed to the chemo, was that there was just this push because they just didn't believe, even though they did 3 biopsies, which I think is unheard of for pancreatic cancer. But I'm telling you, to this day, they did 3 biopsies. They couldn't believe that they couldn't find any trace of cancer. But I have a lot of patients that have had breast cancer, thyroid cancer, and they've done radiation or chemo, and they reckon it saved them. But they're also people that have chosen to take, approach to life like a new lease on life and get amongst it and enjoy life and do things correctly. So, there is that element too. But I think he should have had a little bit more support in the decisions he made from his oncologist, the pancreatic specialist. But, it's all part of life, and adversity and the challenges, and it makes you grow. And it's definitely made myself be a better chiro and have more empathy for people, that happening. And also me being sick, because I was still sick. I was seeing a chiropractor and I was just starting to get better as my father passed away. And that was pretty hard, because I definitely didn't have the energy and the mind frame I have now. I feel like I'm getting younger now, just because of everything we're doing to be healthy now. So
I think Cindy's reversing her. I think we're reversing our aging every day, I'm curious, because what fascinates me in this conversation and what you're saying, and where Cyndi and I love to go with people, is understanding that for many people, and you said it, mentally gave up. So we've talked about the spine and the connection to the mind and everything, but I'm curious, let's say your dad was here and diagnosed with this now, and he was doing well with the food and nutrition, and he actually was looking better than ever. Would you tell us now then, just in case someone's listening to this who has had this diagnosis, how would you approach it differently now? Are we going back to what Cyndi asked before about the connection with the spine and the brain, and then about the mental aspect of dealing with quite a chronic disease like this?
Yep, a good question again. So we would definitely be adjusting my father, because he didn't get any chiro care. I was just starting to be a chiro and do pre-chiro because of how much it had helped me when my dad was really going downhill. So I would, like many people that come in here, many people we see, I can think of a number of people I'm seeing right now that have had diagnosis of cancer, have either had breasts removed or all sorts of conditions, even in the last couple of years. And lo and behold, we're adjusting them now. They're in remission, but we're adjusting them. They feel better. Their gut works better. They're taking good supplements. They're watching what they eat. So, and I think they get a positive kick coming in from the way we talk to them, the way we kind of remind them, doing certain things every day, getting sunlight in the eyes, going for a walk on the beach, being grateful for where you live, starting the day, I always say, with a little bit of hot water and lemon to help the gut, the gallbladder, clean the body before you eat, just different things like that. So, yep, chronic disease, autoimmune conditions, adjust the spine, help someone feel and function at their best. We see patients that have had serious mental health issues, anorexic patients. It's funny how Cyndi was saying earlier with psychologists. We actually adjust a few psychologists, and one that deals with domestic violence patients, and she really likes coming in because it helps her mood and helps her function better to help people that are going through serious like stories and issues with domestic violence and that. So, yeah.
It's pretty powerful. And I think Cyndi and I just both want to say kudos to you and the chiropractic profession, all of the allopathic and beautiful modalities that are available to us, to not be afraid to find the right person. I want to check with you on this, though. Not all chiropractic care is the same, like anything. Everyone has a different approach. How would you say yours? I've heard lots of differences in what you love to do. Some people, they have, and I'm not knocking any of it, I love all chiropractic care, but some will have clients lined up. It's like a 5, 6, 7-minute session, adjustment done, moved out. You took an hour and a quarter with me on that day. I know I was a new patient, but there was something about the care that you took. I don't know. Is it the time? Is it that you want to understand the body more? Could you adjust in 5 minutes every time? Like, I'm just curious to know the different approaches.
No, that's a good question again. And this is something that we've found hard with the chiropractic profession, obviously, and not to offend any of my colleagues, because we all have, even the chiros that have worked for us in London, and this is what was cool, we all practice differently. And some were quicker, some were longer. Definitely new patient, an hour and 15 is long. We had a lot to go over. I wanted to take time. I wanted to help you. I was stoked you were coming in too, because obviously I knew who you were from past and loved Danny Morrison. Growing up, he was my favorite cricketer. So, and we just chatted about many things too. I wanted to also really go over functional movement patterns for you, because I knew you were only coming in once and then you were going back to Australia. But our new patients will tend to be 45 to 50 minutes, which is quite long. My standard adjustments are 15 to 20 minutes, which is a lot longer than most chiros. But if you're a very good chiro and you check the spine and you adjust it well, you can do that very quickly. But you've got to be good. You've got to have that rapport. I've been adjusted by chiros that have been like that, and it's just been amazing. I've also been adjusted by people where I felt like it was like in and out the door. I didn't like every chiro I've seen in the past, but chiropractors adjust you. And that's what I realized the minute I started seeing a chiro after going to an osteo for years, who was a really well-known osteo. And I was going to study to be an osteo. The minute the chiro adjusts me, I was like, whoa, it's a deep, specific adjustment, really affects the nervous system. It's not mobilization, and you notice it pretty quickly. But you have to find the chiro that works for you. My style is never going to be 5 minutes in and out the door. I see people back to back. I think we have to obviously make money. We have to have a flow. But I also like to do cranials. I like to do a little bit of sacro-occipital technique. I like to test some of the muscles. That's always going to take a bit longer. So there's a real, like, we actually adjust a lot of physios, which I think is great. One was the physio when I was at Les Mills, who was like, are you sure you want to study to be a chiro? She now comes in and her two boys come in and she loves what we do. So that's in a roundabout way. And she's quite a well-known physio. Now, physios, you'll line up 10 physios, they'll be different. Every physio is different. They'll practice differently. Some won't even put their hands on you. It's similar with chiros. It's not similar, but a chiro should always check and adjust your spine and be good at it. Check the spine, adjust the spine, remove that interference, adjust full spine. And that's chiropractic for me. Then you'll get chiros that will do muscle testing, applied kinesiology, sacro-occipital technique, neuro-emotional technique, like one of Siobhan Brothers does, to release emotions and trauma and then adjust you. And that's what I find a lot of patients love. And they'll find different chiros that use those techniques. And, we adjust people that like us, but they like the chiro they've been seeing better. It's cool. That's what makes the world go round. But generally, we have very few patients that don't come back and don't get their family in and don't continue care and don't get results. And then it becomes wellness care. So, yeah, but my style is always going to be a little bit longer. It just is. It's I'm not going to, I want to be able to have a chat. I want to be able to talk to you about you. I want to be able to go over movement patterns and then adjust you well and do different things. But in saying that, you could get adjusted in 5 minutes. Sometimes I get adjusted in 5 minutes and it's amazing. So yeah, you've got to find who you like. You've got to look up their website, look up their techniques and then try them out and see. And it's also the energy and who they are. So yeah.
I love that you said this, because what we find is that, if somebody doesn't like their doctor, they'll go find another doctor. But if someone doesn't like their chiro, they go, oh, chiros are quacks. It's like a dentist, like the dentist, you got to find another one. There's always going to be someone there for you. So thank you for, making, that an important thing, and that there are different techniques. Like,
yes,
my dad did Gonstead and Ouija board. I don't know what they called that, but he had what we called the Ouija board, because he would drag his finger on this metal plate, yes, and then they would drag if there was a vertebral subluxation. I don't know what it was, but he did that for years. Yeah.
Well, the guy that got me into chiropractic, and I will respect him to this day, is Dean Kenny. He was ex-All Black also, which is pretty cool. Studied in the States in Palmer, which was like a very famous college, and he was a Gonstead practitioner. So he used the nervous scope, very specific, deep adjustments, always a posterior adjustment on the spine. So very different to how we practice, but God, he helped me. So I have full respect for him, but I practice so differently to him. And that's the main thing. You find the chiro that resonates with you. As the one thing that does get me is when a chiro will be like, right, you've got to come in 3 times a week for 3 months up front, and you've got to pay up front, and there's very little chat. And then they tell you that if you've seen another chiro, that no, they don't know what they're talking about. You've got to prescribe to this way of thought. No, we switch patients. We see patients that the chiro down the road is going on holiday for 3 weeks. We're going to see one of her patients that really needs to be seen. We'll refer people to her if we feel they're better suited for her. That's how we work. The main thing is to help the patient and be good at checking and adjusting the spine.
I was just going to continue on this. I wanted to go back to something, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this one too, Terry. There's something, is the word energetic, vibrational? There's something around the unseen or the unspoken, or we can't quite. You're saying that you make people feel good, or you don't. I know you operate to help people to feel good. But there is something about walking into your practice. Is there an intentionality? Is there something that you do you sage clean the plate? Like, I'm just curious to know, how do you create that energy that you have in that beautiful practice of yours, because that's
Thank
what's
you.
so beautifully welcoming when I walk in.
Yeah, I mean, in London, we found that we were between Portobello Road and what was the street called? And Goulburn Road, and it's a very chaotic area. So you would see a movie being shot on the corner. We'd see Owen Wilson, the movie star, most days going around walking, having a chat. I mean, you'd see someone stealing a bike. You'd see crazy stuff on the street. You'd see a group of crackheads. It was such a crazy place. So Siobhan really didn't like that. So we tried to create an energy about our practice. And literally, you'd open the door, you'd come in, you'd sit down and go, whoa. So we always had plants. We'd sage the place. We would always have like good essential oils. We would use doTERRA. We'd always have calming music. We would have a lot of plants, great books. We'd have the tea of the day, so different teas. I always remember going to Discover Naturopathy. So when I started seeing Dean for Chiropractic, the other person that really helped me was Discover Naturopathy. And that clinic's actually owned by Damien Christoph. So I went to his clinic in Auckland. I would travel from the Hibiscus Coast to Mount Eden, and they were amazing. And I'd go in there and I would read these awesome books and I would drink their tea before my appointment. And I always remember their books. There was one that was all about the people, the first person to break the like 5-minute mile. I mean, the first person to do this. And the minute they did it, 5 other people do it. And I was like, what a cool book. I mean, every day they had a different tea and it was so warming. So that's what we've done. We've created that. And then our intention is to just have a healing energy. We have cool artwork, cool paintings. And when we moved back here, my wife was just about to give birth. And I was just really, we joke about it now, but just grinding her about buying the best books, buying the best artwork, setting the practice up, making it a healing environment. And she was like, can I just give birth first? But we created that within 6 weeks of being back in New Zealand so I could open literally around the time she gave birth, which I probably should have waited, but I just wanted that healing environment. And now when people come in, they're just like, man, this place is cool. So it's a combination of things. I mean, it's our energy, I believe, it's, yeah. And you can't see it. Energy is real, you can't see it. It's not always tangible, but it's like you feel it, you experience it. And I think London was the place where you felt it the most, because it was such a chaotic, intense place. I mean, you'd walk into our practice and some people would get adjusted and then sit for an hour after their adjustments and drink tea and talk to the other patients, which I thought would happen here, but people almost seem busier here than London. London, they don't want to leave the practice, so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
And you're right about energy. Like medicine uses energy in their diagnosis. They just don't use it in their healing, which is quite interesting. You think of the environment of a specialist or a GP or most, I'm not saying all, or
Yes.
a hospital, and that would be almost all. There's very few hospitals without that beautiful environment. So I love it when there's a new environment. And I think things need to change in that allopathic world, as regards to the environment, especially the hospital environment with food, light,
Yes. Yeah.
artificial air, not opening windows,
Yes.
like disinfectants. It just needs to change. And then you walk into a chiropractor's office, and not all are like what you're talking about, but they are. It's just something that's lovely. I know I walk into a shop that's like that, and all of a sudden I go, oh, this is so nice. So there is that energy, and it's just a pity that medicine allopathic is not seeing, they diagnose with it, but they don't treat with it.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly it. Like, we walked into a shop in Mount Maunganui, and I still remember it's where we bought our candle holder for our tea. And people come and they would say, man, that's a cool little candle holder. Where did you get it? And we got it in this little shop in Mount Maunganui. You walk in, they've got really cool plants. It was really quirky. They had cool music. They greet you straight away. And the lighting was really nice. It wasn't those bright white lights in your face. And you didn't want to leave the shop. Even our little boy loved it, and it's exactly that. It's the combination of things. And yeah, when my dad was in palliative care, I've got to say, most of the nurses were really nice. And they actually did create a healing environment, even though it was palliative care, especially a couple of the nurses. And his room they gave him was quite nice. But the food, oh my God, like ice cream, jelly, white bread. And they would even joke about it. And I was like, oh, the sugar and the refined carbs to give someone that's in palliative care, and the really bright lights are just, I hope that changes, because that's, it does have an effect on your nervous system, your immune system, big time. Yeah.
Think about
We've been talking about this sorry, Kimmy.
No, sorry, just before you go on, but I just want to say
Yeah.
the difference between, Cyndi, isn't it you that says there's allopathic, which is our traditional Western type of approach, alternative, which is considered perhaps complementary alternative medicine, but then you talk about alternate. Is that something, Cyndi,
that's a Sarah Farrant who we have interviewed, and Sarah says there's allopathic, alternative, and alternate. And alternate is looking at the innate intelligence of the body and giving it all the resources it needs and removing interference. So the removing interference has always been chiropractic, and the ingredients are light, sound, sunshine, sleep, exercise or movement, connection, grounding. So these are all important ingredients. And we've been talking about the hospital system and its food for I want to swear long. I don't get why they haven't changed it. I think they're just idiots. And I'm sorry, I'm saying it. They're just idiots, yes, exactly, that want more money instead of the health of the patient. Like, I reckon a hospital in on my farm would be incredible.
Yes, that would. Yeah,
I'm sorry, but that raises a really interesting. That raises an interesting point, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Terry. When someone is confronted with a life-threatening illness or disease or a condition or an autoimmune or something, most people, if they, well, not, I wouldn't say most, sorry, that's a generalization, but there is an approach that people will fly to Mexico, or they'll go and do some sort of holistic plant-based therapy, or they'll do whatever it takes. And often it's stripping away all of the possible toxins or environmental factors in order to give the patient the best healing approach to their care. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, we see that in practice all the time. And once again in London, that was like, I saw that so much. London was a place where you live in a concrete jungle. Love things about London, also find some things very toxic, the air, lack of sunlight, the concrete jungle. But the amount of patients that would travel to do retreats, and they would pay whatever. And I love that. And they would do like sound healing. They would do staying on an organic farm for a week. They would go and do a cleanse. And some of them were people that were like A-list. They would party. They would do crazy stuff. And then they would go and try do this detox for a week. But people would, when they would be diagnosed or they would have things happen, they would go and do ayahuasca. They would go and do plant medicine. They would do whatever they had to if they could. And in London, we were amazed at how many people do that. Not as much here, but I feel here people will just, around us, people really appreciate the beach, the sunlight. Kiwis and Aussies are definitely more holistic and more in tune with health by nature. You guys might not agree with that, with the greater population in Australia, but I definitely feel here you can talk to people about vitamins and minerals, and a lot of them have already done their research, which is pretty interesting. Or when we get up and go for a walk on the beach in the morning, there are a lot of people walking on the beach at 6 a.m. in the middle of summer, and it's cool. And exercising back here, it's like Siobhan and I take turns going to Les Mills in the morning, and we'll train at 5:15 and it's packed. And you find as soon as someone gets, not everyone, but people get this diagnosis or sickness, a lot of people will go on this journey and just do these extreme things. My dad did it, and my dad was healthy and strong, but he wasn't very holistic. My mum was. My dad was more the other end of the scale, he'd go to the doctor every time he was sick. And yeah. I hope that answered the question.
Oh, very much, very much. I think I just wish, and I'm sure Cyndi would agree with me, it was the other way around.
Yes.
That we lived like that, and every now and again we'd have a blowout going the other way. Maybe,
I know they get a shock and they go and make a change. Yeah, I know.
I know.
I think
There's a beautiful book, Terry, and it's called the Salt Path, and the follow-up to it is called something lines, Nature Lines or something like that. And
not
it's by
White Lines.
Yeah, no, it's not White Line. By Raywin Rainer Wynn. And it's about a very sick husband, and they go hiking around the Devon coast, and then they do another hike up in Scotland. And they said he will die within a certain amount of time. There's no cure. There's nothing you can do for him. And they just went hiking and walking, and he's cured. It'll make you cry, these books. They're true stories. And the first one is beautiful because he starts to get well, and then the second one is a bit of a rough trip, but they're out in nature, and he heals. And I remember a friend of mine. Yeah, I remember a friend of mine. He had cancer back when I was about 20, and he every day walked through his garden with bare feet, and he reckons that's what cured him. He's still alive today. So, you just...
Oh, 100%. I completely agree. Completely. What is it the Salt Lines, the first book?
The Salt Path.
The Salt Path. I'll look up Raywin. Okay.
And the other one is something lines.
As we're looking this up, I just want to say, if someone's listening to this, there's Wild Science, the Salt Path, and Land something or other lines. Landlines. But just as someone's potentially out walking the beach right this minute. I mean, you say 6 a.m. in New Zealand, but we're 4 a.m. over here, Terry, as you know. It's so light in the morning here for us in Queensland. But I'm curious, someone listening to this, walking the beach or driving, how do our Kiwi friends find you? And for all Australians visiting Auckland, Melford, North Shore, can you give your beautiful practice a plug, the website and socials?
Yes. So our Instagram is Chiropractic Alchemy NZ, because you'll get the UK one too, but we're Chiropractic Alchemy NZ. Our website is www.chiropracticalchemynz.co.nz. I think Instagram and website, they're the two. Yeah. So
we'll find you.
And the heart of Melford, which would be great. It's kind of it's just across from the Harbour Bridge, nice beachy suburb. So, and we're on the high street. So it's cool because we do actually see, like yourself, a lot of people coming from Australia, the States, athletes, people that are over here just for a holiday, and they get hold of us. And a lot of our ex-patients, when they come this way, they come in and see us, and it's cool. We love that, because I miss that about London, that internationalism and people at the top of their game, that want to come in and get an adjustment. So,
I think I'm hearing that you're putting me in that category, athlete, top of their game. I'm actually liking this conversation. Look, gorgeous Terry, we were both very, very excited to get you on the show today. We love your philosophy. We love your approach. We're both big advocates of chiropractic, as many of our listeners will know. We particularly love all the beautiful people you've mentioned, gorgeous TJ, who's got a practice, and Casey up in Gympie here in Queensland. We've got many of their friends in South Australia and Sydney and all over. Dr. Damien Christoph is a very dear friend of ours. I love, if I can honestly say, the community of what chiropractic is about. I don't know if there's another profession that is as close or as complementary of one another as what this beautiful industry is. So as someone who is on the outside looking in, I want to acknowledge chiropractic care and all of you beautiful chiropractors out there. And to those of you listening to the show today, please make chiropractic a part of your weekly, if not monthly care. Search and seek and look out for the Dr. Terry Holmeses of the world and his beautiful wife, Siobhan. Cyndi, unless there's anything else you'd love to add, my darling girl, I think I can safely say on behalf of both of us, and thank you for me personally for supporting me in my back care. That was a very pivotal shift for me from a mindset point of view, knowing that my body had the ability to do the exercises that you told me, which I'm religious at doing. When I get told to do something, I stick to it. And I know that has been part of me now being pain-free. So I just want to say thank you publicly to you. I think you're an incredible chiropractor, and I cannot wait to come back to Auckland to see you, and I'll bring Cyndi with me.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. And very honoured that you guys get me on your show too. So
thank you.
yeah, and to meet you also, Cyndi, because read your book and we've looked at your material in the past, and yeah, love to see you guys in the future, and even try get Danny in maybe.
Oh, he'd be on you. He's classified as what you'd know as a table tart. You may not get him off that table once he comes in. He's already always hounding Cindy's husband as well, so and TJ. So I promise you, when we're back here later this year, which we are booked to come back, we will be coming to see you, my friend, and we'll be
awesome.
in.
Yeah, thank you so much. Honoured. Right, thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.